Okay, we're going up against Nebel, who is 2134. And looks like we're headed for some kind of Queen's Indian, perhaps, because I don't like to allow the Nimzo because I think it's too good. So I often end up in a Queen's Indian against people who want to play the Nimzo against me. I'm a little interested in both of these openings from the black side. Because I'm a little... I'm losing my faith in the King's Indian as my main weapon against d4 with black. And I'm thinking about adopting this kind of thing. But I also really like the Semi-Slav, so I don't know, it's hard to choose. So maybe this game will help me learn about the black side of this opening. I believe there's lots of things that can be done, but I think bishop d2 is one of the things. And then if he takes, I think queen takes is the main move. Which looks like it walks into this, but the queen's fine on c2. Okay, so he just defends the bishop. Castling would seem to make an awful lot of sense. Knight c3 maybe should get some honorable mention. I mean, I guess with the queen here, maybe we can make some argument that this bishop is a little clunky. Like if I play knight c3 and a3, then the bishop is either going to have to go to d6, which looks weird, or give itself up for the knight, which I guess I'd also be happy about. Probably d5 is a move that black will be playing soon. So like knight c3, d5. I mean, there's always some like knight e5 to kind of expose a pin here. I think I am going to do knight c3. It just seems interesting. And either it's right or I'll learn. So I think usually they're taking, or sometimes they'll even go back. And they'll try to argue that your bishop isn't so good here. Oops, I meant to go forward in the game. Okay, he just castled. So my idea was to play a3 and claim that this bishop is without a logical square. I think I'm just gonna swing the bat around on that and see if my idea is any good. Yeah, so I did indeed get the bishop pair. d5 is definitely gonna happen sometime soon. Oh, okay. That makes some sense. So bishop b4 is sort of the obvious variation. Unfortunately, there's no like tricky knight move, because knight takes bishop is always going to tempo the queen. Otherwise, I'd really be thinking about trying to do something here. So if I play bishop b4, c5 is definitely going to happen. Ooh, I do see a tricky continuation, though. I think I'm just going to play it. Ooh, does everything work out there? Wait, I got to calculate a little more. There. Yeah, that looks pretty spicy. Okay, I'm going to play queen c2. And my idea is, if knight takes, I actually had a similar trick in an OTB game about 2 or 3 months ago that I missed. So I'm going to prove that I learned from it. But I also got to make sure that this works. But my plan is if knight takes c3, knight g5. And the idea is that I'm threatening checkmate, and I'm also threatening the bishop and the rook. So I'm down a piece momentarily, and I might even be down 2 pieces when he takes on g5. But I'm going to win this bishop, and then the rook's hanging and the knight's hanging. And I should actually end up ahead there, I believe. Let me make absolutely certain. So knight g5, queen g5, bishop b7. If he moves the knight, I can take the bishop. And then where I could get in trouble is if I lose the bishop on a8. So how does that happen? That happens if he plays like c6. That's if he's moving this knight. If he moves the knight, it would probably be back to e4. Maybe I just take the knight. Oh, yeah, because then I'm forking that and still the rook. Okay, so I think that works. So knight g5, queen takes, bishop takes. If he moves his knight out, then I could take the rook and then the knight. So I think this all works out, and it's either going to be really cool or I'm going to be lost. But I'm going to trust my... I also... Yeah, I mean, he can't take the bishop because checkmate's good. So I think this is just working. And if so, that would be really cool. And that was my idea when I played queen c2, and I also kind of figured, like, if he plays it, like, I still have a chance to sit and calculate, and in absolute worst case, I can just, like, take the knight back, and it shouldn't be, like, too big of a deal. So, you know, I'm trying to get better about my time management. So I thought queen c2 was sort of a good move, irrespective of whether this trick works. But I think the trick works, which is convenient. But yeah, I might have to try to find the game, the OTB game that I had, which was similar to this. I ended up winning that game in like a long, drawn-out end game that was very stressful, and I actually could have just had like a completely winning position on move like 9 or so with this same trick. So I guess I actually do occasionally learn from things that I miss, which is good. Okay, so I mean, he basically has to take the knight or play like f5 or g6. Against either g6 or f5, I'm just taking this. Material is restored, but the rook's also hit. And I mean, and the knight's hanging. So those moves don't make a ton of sense. I think queen takes is basically forced. And then I'm taking the bishop. I'm still down a piece, but the rook's hanging, the knight's hanging. And yeah, I think the only super concerning line would be knight e4. And I think the key move, bishop takes e4, hitting the pawn, still hitting the rook. And maybe I only end up winning a pawn. So let's look at some alternatives. So queen takes knight, bishop takes bishop, knight e4. If I take the rook, what I'm worried about is like c6. And then my bishop could get trapped. Okay, an even more different move. Okay, well, I think this is similar. I think I just take the bishop. He'll take back, and then I take with the bishop. Maybe he won't take back. Well, if he doesn't take back, he's losing the knight. And then I'm ahead, and I'm threatening like knight f6. So yeah, it's definitely this. And if he takes back, bishop takes, I've got this same fork. That theme is popping up again. So if nothing else, it seems like this trick is going to win me a pawn. And I mean, my light square bishop should be a pretty powerful piece. I mean, I probably should have considered the move bishop e4 or knight e4. Those moves did elude me. But I mean, my threat was queen h7, so I should look at all moves that stop queen h7, which I did look at some blocking moves, but not these moves. Oops. Can't draw the arrows right either. Okay, wait, we want to go forward? Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think he really has a move other than knight takes knight. Because his knight's hanging, and there's nowhere for the knight to go. And even if there were, like, knight f6 is also... Well, okay, knight f6 maybe isn't a threat. Okay, yeah, he did just take. We're just going to take back, and we're going to win this pawn. Because he's going to play, like, knight c6. Yeah. Now, we may still have to be accurate, because this pawn could hang in some circumstance. So I think, like, bishop h7, king h8. And maybe d5, just to make sure that the pawn is never hanging. Or we just go back and pin the knight. Ah, but there's still takes. Because of the tempo on the queen, so... So what happens after d5? I mean, he can still go knight d4. I guess we have to play, like... queen d3 to tempo the knight, because like g6 could trap the bishop in some lines. I mean, I'm taking the pawn. And then I'm going to figure it out after he plays king h8. Like, h4 is also a very tempting move. And just try to rip it open. I mean, h4 basically says if you ever play g6, I'm playing h5. But I'm not 100% sure that that actually is, like, good. Okay, so d5 looks like sort of an obvious candidate. d5, the knight will go... Knight e5 looks like the only really concerning square. And then I think queen d3. Tempo again on the knight. Maybe he'll play, like, e5. But then I could just play bishop e4. d5, knight d4, queen d3. He could play g6. And I could take the knight, and then, like, h4. Yeah, I mean, that's all looking pretty good. I worked hard for this pawn. Like, I can't just give it back, you know, willy-nilly. There's also queen e4 to consider if knight d4 is played. That, you know, pins this pawn, attacks the knight. But that doesn't give the bishop anywhere to retreat. I mean, I guess technically the bishop can retreat here due to pinning. So if knight d4, queen e4, where is black's knight going? I guess it's going to b3. So maybe that's why queen d3 is better. That doesn't allow knight b3. Okay, he just took. So my idea was to take back. After knight d4, queen d3, knight b3 is still playable because the bishop is loose. Oh, he's also threatening this now. That's a minor detail. Okay, so queen d3 seems necessary. That keeps this defended, and it watches out for knight f3, which is a move which could cause some annoyance. I think if knight b3, maybe I just move the rook. force him to play g6 if he wants to try to get rid of this bishop, and then the knight's hangings. And take it later. If knight f3, I think I pretty much have to take it. And that will allow him to gain this bishop. But at some point, like, queen h5 could be a move. I'm still up a pawn. I mean, he actually doesn't... Yeah, okay, he just didn't react, which is totally fair. Yeah, that is sort of annoying. Maybe e4? e4, g6 is getting a little scary. But e3 allows check, which probably isn't good. So e4, g6, maybe I just take it. And then take the knight. Okay, I think e4 is sort of fine. Again, I will admit to being a little scared. While I was winning pawns and stuff, I was not castling, so... Bad things can happen to you when you don't castle. f5 is a legal move. f5, maybe I can just play bishop g6. And then if takes, I can take the knight. I mean, he could also take the bishop. There's no question about that. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ever really going to be able to keep this pawn. Because, like, am I really going to play f3 and try to defend the e4 pawn that way? I'm going to keep getting hit with, like, f5, c6 breaks. Okay, he just takes. I mean, that sort of forces my hand. I mean, and he can just regain the pawn, like, automatically. Here. Yeah, and he might even end up with this pawn, too. So all that work, and I might end up down a pawn. Sad. Okay, I think the king... wants to be on g2. And if he goes after this pawn, I can play rook c1. That won't make it so easy on him. He might just play rook c8, but it's, you know, it's not the most fun move to play. So I think the game might continue rook d4, rook c1, rook c8. And I want to go rook c2 so that I can go king g2 without letting the rook come into the second rank. Rook fe8 would also make some sense. Against rook fe8, I probably still play rook c1. Okay. Hmm. Maybe I should just play rook g2. Rook g2, I was worried about the rook coming to the second rank, but you know, if rook d2 is played, I could just play rook over to d1, rook hd1. And then I defended that pawn. Oh, I guess he could just take... I kind of forgot if he takes there. In my brain, this pawn was gone, and I could take here, which would be nice, but... Yeah, this is looking kind of bad. Because when this falls, this pawn majority is very annoying. But I don't see how to keep it from falling. So I definitely need to try to get the rooks active as quickly as possible. So yeah, I think I do need to just play king g2. And be ready to play rook e1, rook e7. I'm definitely going to have active rooks to make up for this pawn minus. c5 looks fairly reasonable from him. Okay. Also reasonable. He wants to play king c6 if I play rook e7, or king f6, sorry, if rook e7. I'm thinking about b4, because c5 looks so annoying to me. I mean, it doesn't really stop c5, though. Maybe it discourages it. What am I doing on rook d3, though? Not too easy. Okay, I'm not sure, but I need to do something, so I'm gonna play rook e3. Now I defended a3. If I am allowed to play b4, I probably will. I mean, b4, maybe he just plays a5. But I also am now free to double up on whichever file I choose. Ooh, okay. Well, I can try to get this guy now. He's just gonna block with this rook. I think that's his idea. But I could take it, and that would leave him with some less than desirable pawns. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. maybe B or C. Yeah, B4 was again another good consideration. That stops this idea too. I can also consider rook CE1 if rook C5. Yeah, it doesn't feel right. But maybe. I could try to get both my rooks, like, here and here. Might not be too bad. Yeah, you know what? I'm changing my mind. You go rook here. Would he do that? Yeah, I mean, if I take and he takes, this pawn is definitely on the scary side of things. Yeah, I'm too scared to trade rooks. I'm just too afraid to do it. I think he should play rook d8. Stop my idea. And then I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe like rook e2 and just hope I can chill. Because like rook c2 is, you know, an obvious looking idea. H4 is like one of those moves that's like very often useful in an endgame. So if I'm ever stuck for a move, I might just play h4. But I really want to try to be as active as possible with the rooks. So h4 is probably never going to be a high priority. Okay, he did indeed do the thing that I was hoping he would not. Let's lift this rook like so. E4 could be an idea. Rook F3 could be an idea. You might play King F6. You might play D5. Okay. Let's get B4. Been talking about it so much. Rook sort of needs to defend that, so hopefully we'll be able to restrict him a little bit. And then probably H4. And just ask him how he plans to win. I mean, one thing that I hadn't really thought about until now is, like, if I have an advantage, I do have a pawn majority here. I'm not saying I have an advantage. I'm saying, like he has some advantages, I have some advantages, you know? Like, he's got an extra pawn. So, like, this is one area of the board that I actually do have some advantage, so it'd be nice to try to do something with it. H4, G4, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, let's get H4 for sure. And then, yeah, a plan could be G4, G5. Which deflects the king away so I can try to do this. Go after F7. If he plays D5, there could even be some weird mating nuts. With, like, rook here. Yeah, I mean, I said I wanted to be active. This pawn is scary. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. But okay. What I really like, my dream is rook 3 e5, h5, and then g5 is mate. So that would be pretty sweet. So, like, d4, I think I'm going here. Just setting that up. I could also play check and then rook here. Just a merit. Calculating. Not my strong suit, apparently. Okay, I don't know. This feels better. Don't have enough time to calculate it. See if he's privy to my ideas. If g6, I can check. And then maybe try to take advantage of this pin, but I'm not so sure about that. Okay, he doesn't seem worried, so he probably calculated everything. Maybe I can get some perpetual. Also seems possible. I mean, I think G6 and or G5 is like completely forced. And I think I want... renewing the mate threat. He has to play G5, then rook E8. I'm going to try to get behind this pawn and support my pawn. I mean, he has to play G5. Like, I don't think there's... I don't think there's any other move that stops mate. Like, I mean, I guess he could take this, but then he's got to play G5. Mm-hmm. Here. He probably needs to go here. I might just have enough counterplay to hold this. Like, if D2, then H7. Yep. Okay, let's get behind the pawn. I mean, unfortunately, I guess I'm losing another pawn. Okay, I should win this pawn, though. Maybe that wasn't good. He can promote and then fork me. But my rook's gonna be pretty active. Can even pre-move that. He actually, I mean, he probably just wants to trade down into the king and pawn. He's probably correct about that. Yeah, rook d3 wasn't such a good move, I think. Luckily, now that my king's here, my rook can... Yeah, I should have never played rook. That was sort of just a wasted tempo. I should have just gone here. I hadn't made the determination. I forgot that I kind of can't trade down into the king and pawn ending. So I just want to go back with my rook. Get somewhere good. I'm hoping rook d3 wasn't a losing move, but it feels like it could have been. Can still pre-move this, but... Oh, wait. Yeah, I mean, I have to double check. Okay, we got to try and be active. Not going to be much fun. Having trouble deciding where I want my king. I think my rook's going to have to try to defend everything. Okay, well, we're taking that. Oh, wait. I should have taken this. What am I doing? I'm moving too fast. Time trouble, I guess. It may somehow be holdable. I don't know. Probably not, but... I mean, it's table base, right? At this point? No, this is 8 pieces. If he ever pushes, I want to be able to check him. Like, what's his winning plan? He's gonna have to give up something, right? He's gonna have to give up a pawn somewhere. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure which direction I want my king to run. I guess I'm going to try to get up in here. Ah, I see what he wants. Can I do anything about it? Unknown. Oh no, actually this is good. Because he wants to go here. That's what he wants. Yeah, now he's low on time too. Yeah, I'm still not real sure where I want my king. I might draw. It might happen. Ah, king's so far away. Gotta try to get the king in front of the pawn. Now, I think this is like getting close to like a Philidor position, right? I'm not saying I remember the Philidor position. I think I'm supposed to put my rook on the 6th rank, though. Man, what a tough game. I just had a moment of fear, like it hasn't been recording the game. Yeah, and at some point I'm supposed to go back here and give the checks, but I think I want his pawn to move forward first. That's my vague memory of the Philidor position. Definitely go here. I think that was just, he wanted to gain some time. I'm just gonna wait. Somehow I feel like I'm supposed to go back and do checks. I can't calculate it, so I'm just gonna trust that instinct. Just putting pressure on the pawn. Don't let the king move. Okay, haven't we had this position? Yes, all right. Got him. Wow, what a game that was. Like I had that trick in the opening, which may not have been good, like because I run a pawn, but it was really difficult to hang on to. Then I ended up down a pawn. Then the rook ending was probably not so well played. I mean, at least rook d3 was really bad. I was down 2 pawns in the rook ending and I managed to draw it. So I don't know. I think the computer's gonna have a field day with this game, but let's see. Yeah. So black was definitely winning, which is not too much of a surprise. It looks like I did miss a few moments earlier in the game I could have drawn. Okay, let's just start from the beginning and take a quick spin. My opponent saying some nice things in the chat, so. Okay, yeah. So it was a Queen's Indian, and this was sort of where I was out of theory. So Queen e7 has been played, but it's not super common. It's actually the least commonly played move here, and white is winning 44% of the time. But it has been played like 200 times, so it can't be terrible. Most players are just castling, and I decided that knight c3 might be a good idea. Both moves seem okay. Apparently this is the Capablanca variation. I guess that's after bishop b4 check. It's the Capablanca variation. Okay, so he castled, and I played my idea, which was a3, which has never been played at the master level before. And he took the knight. Okay, let's bring in the engine around this point. Yep, I thought taking the knight was the only move that made a whole lot of sense. Computer agrees. And yeah, I thought he would play d5. That's something the computer... I guess I should turn on the arrow so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. Yeah, computer's just giving a small... Oh, and we want the... I like showing you guys the... Yeah, the evaluation gauge. Okay, so it's a small advantage for white, but I actually managed to build it over the next few turns. So queen c2 was good. And then, yeah, this was sort of the big gotcha moment in the game. And knight g5 was the best move, so it's nice that I like recognize this pattern from one of my previous games. Okay, so knight g5 was good. Props to him for finding bishop e4, which is one of the best moves. It says knight e4 is actually a little bit better. Yeah, not real sure why. I mean, it probably has something to do with the fact that after bishop, like here, I'm getting this fork, which again may or may not actually be good. But if he had played knight e4 first, I'm not necessarily getting the fork because he's not obliged to take here. I mean, it sort of makes sense just from a principle point of view. Like, if we're gonna block with a piece, why not make it the piece that's hanging? You know, like this piece needs to be saved. So, anyway. So I actually had a pretty sizable advantage here. It's giving plus 1.3 after knight takes, bishop takes. And yeah, we're playing the top lines. And then here, maybe I got a little greedy. Okay, I mean, the computer is debating with itself whether to take on h7 or to play e3 and defend the pawn first. So if we play e3, we're giving black a moment to do something about the h7 pawn. And I guess the computer is just saying that if black makes a move like g6 or f5, that's going to be weakening, I guess. I mean, I suppose white does have an advantage already in this position without winning the pawn, because our bishop should just be better than this knight. Okay, e3 didn't really occur to me, but that's an interesting point. And then I had to find a better move here than d5, and that move was bishop e4. So I sort of wrote off bishop e4, because I was like, bishop e4, he can still take here. And then I think I did look as far as like queen d3, tempoing the knight, and the rook is still attacked, so knight c6. But then, having found nothing there, I didn't like it. So what is the actual line? Yep. g4. That's such a hard move to consider, because it's such a strange looking move. But the point is so clear. Like, g4, queen h3, and we just try to get a big attack. Okay, g4 is a nice move. It's also pointing out queen f3. Queen f3 is maybe a little more human, I think. Because queen f3 is putting more pressure on this pinned piece. We might can win a pawn that way. And it's also threatening queen h5, queen h7. That's a little easier to understand. But g4 is cool. I like g4. Okay, so I missed that. That was the only move that really kept a big advantage for white. And this is sadly not keeping a big advantage. And he correctly took first. I wasn't sure what the big difference was. I mean, I guess the difference is that this pawn is just that much weaker. I mean, he did end up winning that pawn, right? Like with the rook later. So getting rid of this defensive piece was useful. Many moves down the line. And it does say that it says that queen e4 is better than queen d3. Oh, it never occurred to me that queen e4 is tempoing his queen. So that's not really leaving him the time to do all this other stuff. And if the queen moves, like the queen needs to keep an eye on h4, because I was thinking about in the game, if I can ever get queen h4 where queen takes queen is not possible, then that's just going to be pretty much mate. It's hard to see how that would not be checkmate, because some discovery and then mate to follow. So queen e4, it's giving queen f6. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of scary stuff, because now our bishop could be easily trapped. Like, maybe we have to play... Okay, it's giving rook d1, counterattack. And then it's saying just sacrifice this knight, and then win this bishop. That makes sense, because if black takes, we can't take with the... Or, I'm sorry, we can't take with the king, because of a pin. If we take with the queen, the pin doesn't work because of bishop e4. So we take with the queen, they take the bishop, and then we get out of this annoying pin. And the computer says white's a hair better. Seems like a tough position. Seems like a lot left in this position, but okay. So instead, I played queen d3. Not as good. Yeah, I mean that gave him the tempo to create this threat, which I never really thought about. It's one of those really cagey positions where it's like, it looks like since these pieces are mutually vulnerable, it's like in your brain you make a move like queen d3 and you're like, well, I'm attacking the knight, and you think you're making a forcing move, but you're not, because like this is hanging. So I mean, it could be a forcing move, but like you have to actually calculate and make sure that there is, you know, it's not as simple as I'm threatening a knight because he can just get back this bishop. So queen e4 should have been a much bigger consideration because it's a more forcing move. But I never even saw that queens attack each other that way. Okay, so queen d3, he piled up. King f1 it gives. Man, I mean, knowing what I know, that sort of makes sense, doesn't it? How exactly does that work? Why is that better than the game? Okay, threatening to remove the defender and then take the rook. Also threatening the knight. But again, like both pieces are hanging, so and it is giving an edge to black yet again. But at least in this line, we defended this pawn. We lost this pawn, but black has no passed pawns here. So I don't know, this still feels hard to hold because there's weaknesses here. And like black can probably just create a passer pretty quickly, but I guess the computer is going to prefer that than what happened in the game, which was e4. Took the bishop, I took the knight, he won his pawn back. Oh, this felt pretty forced. Rook c1 was best. Rook c8 was good. Yeah, I mean, my opponent... I mean, it was frustrating because a lot of times in the rook ending, you know, I thought, like, he's going to win a pawn, but I'm going to get my rooks active. But he did a really nice job of trying to, like, prevent my counterplay. Like, rook c8 is the kind of move that I think a lot of people would sort of write off. Because there's a lot of positions where, like, you're moving your rook into a passive position defending the pawn, and you're like, well, that's bad. But, I mean, it's not like the rook is actually worse on c8 than it is on f8, right? But this rook is a whole lot better if it can take on c7, hitting all these pawns, and I mean, like, that's, you know. So this was good, stopping the counterplay. The computer is giving h4 here, which is a move I kept alluding to. Okay, now it's starting to warm up to my move, but it still is giving -1.5 for black, which probably means the position's winning for black, because black's only up one pawn. Well, okay, black's not up a pawn yet, but this pawn is a goner. So if it's giving more than -1, I'm going to assume that it's probably a win. Okay, king g2. Yeah, it felt very difficult already at this point. g4 is not a move I considered at all. I mean, I do think I sort of misevaluated the position because I was like, well, I'm down a pawn, and if I'm going to have compensation, it needs to come in the form of active rooks. But I didn't yet notice that, I mean, I have a pawn majority here. So I could get compensation by having an active pawn majority, and I'm moving forward and I'm queening. So, you know, from that point of view, these moves make a lot of sense. But I was very interested in getting my rook active, which is not a terrible idea either. King g6 is an excellent move. Because again, he's thinking about, like, I want to get here and put pressure on everything, and he's trying to make my idea bad. So king g6 was another one of those really frustrating moves. Again, it's giving h4. I sort of didn't know what to do here. I did think about, let's try to go to the 4th rank, and I could try to come over here. But if I ever do that, like, he just pushes it. So yeah, I wasn't too sure. Again, this isn't terrible. It doesn't like his move here, which isn't too surprising, because he kind of finally let me get a little taste of rook activity. And like now, this evaluation is -0.7. And when it's sort of the opposite, like I'm down one pawn, but the computer's reading less than a pawn advantage for black, then I would kind of assume that it's a draw. So this phase of the game was teetering a lot between win and draw. Man, it's even giving c5, which felt sort of crazy to me. Because I thought I would just take this. Yeah, and then, okay, I mean, he might win this back. Fair. Okay. This was a good move, avoiding the trade of rooks. Because, yeah, I mean, this is another case where, like when I was analyzing this, my first thought was like, well, if we get this position, this probably isn't winning. Which might not be true. But it felt like maybe this wouldn't be winning. This move, like, sort of feels unnatural because, like, this pawn structure just optically looks worse than this structure. But it's not about the structure, it's about that this is a passed pawn, and that this pawn can, you know, move up the board pretty easily. So I did eventually correctly evaluate that as too good for black. So yeah, this is probably still in the draw zone. Again, rook d8 was excellent and very annoying. I went here to try to set up b4. Yeah, and it's giving a5, which I did call out as a possibility. It likes his move king f6 too. It doesn't like b4. Um, wasn't I later saying something about like maybe b4 wasn't such a good idea? I don't remember, but maybe I'll remember at some point. h4 finally. Yeah, okay, wait. So I kind of glossed over this. This is so bad because apparently rook c4 is a really strong move. Because rook c6 is also... Rook c6, it's giving minus 1.1, so that's probably not winning. Why is rook c4 so good? I don't understand rook c4. I mean, I think his move, rook c2, looks a lot more natural. Oh, I bet the idea of rook c4 is that he's just going to play a5. Yeah, that okay, that's what I was thinking, is I was like, on b4, isn't he just going to play a5? He can't now because his rook's attacked. But if he just plays rook c4, and he eventually plays a5, then I'm sort of having to take it, because I can't really afford to lose both these pawns. Okay, actually, I'm glancing over here now, and I'm seeing in every line it's playing d5. Okay, so is this... Okay, this isn't stupid. But it does want d5 first for some reason. Like, if he does this, this is a tough call, because... I mean, it's saying... I mean, this just looks so hard to hold. These pawns are very strong. Computer thinks it might can do it. And if I do something like this, then, I mean... I guess he can't take this so easily because this pawn's loose, but... Okay, I don't fully understand. I mean, I guess the fourth rank is also nice because, like, one of the ideas the computer was looking at is, you know, taking advantage of this pawn majority. Now it's a little harder to get that going, so I'm not real sure, but anyway, so he went here. Now it's probably back to being a draw, and again it wants rook c4. Yeah, and then g4 is actually the only drawing move here, and I did play it, so I guess that explains why the rook should be on the fourth rank. Is that even though this king was doing a good job, you know, it is a little bit in a mating net here. Yeah, and this was another very interesting part of the game. And I had blundered here with rook 3 to e5, which is a losing move. It says g5 is the only draw. So g5... I saw I saw this idea. I just wasn't sure why it was so good. So let's play the naive way. Let's just make a queen with black. Okay, I mean, I guess, like, he's getting perped here, if not worse. Like, there's really no way... Like, he could get mated if he really feels like it. Like, it's saying that white's winning now. Or maybe winning. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of nuts, but... Letting black queen, but now we're threatening mate. And it just gets behind the pawn. Okay, so, I mean, this is obviously sort of crazy, but... Long story short, white's getting enough play. Okay, fair enough. And I was sort of suspicious of this because I was like, it's one of those where, like, I saw my idea of trying to mate him, but I also saw, like, the defenses to my idea, and I was just kind of praying that I could drum something up before this guy queens. And I should have done the same sort of thing, but like this first, basically. Okay, that was tough to see all that in time pressure. So he's winning. And he has to play g5, not g6. Wow, that's so crazy. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I think what the computer's saying makes a lot of sense because I saw this line after g6, g5 check, and I was thinking like, well, I'm not mating him, so like, what's the big deal? But this is just a version of what we got in the game, except for I keep the pawn, and like this is just gonna be such a pain for him. Um, yeah, so he has to play king g8, and then now this is coming with check, and this pawn is just enough. It's just enough. Like now his king is gonna have to babysit this pawn. My rook's behind his pawn, and it doesn't look like he'll be able to win. Wow. By the way, he had to play king in this line. He has to play king g8 here. Um, well, okay, I'm not 100% sure, but if he plays king f8, then h7 looks strong. But actually, this is stronger. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Nice little deflection. And now promotion's unstoppable. And what happens on king h8? We just take the pawn. And then what if he tries to make a queen? Oh, we have a mate. Like, for example, if he queens, then we go check, check. Since the pawn defends the rook, we mate. So yeah, a lot of this endgame was about counterplay of the rooks. So I sort of overcommitted to this idea of making a mating net. And I thought I could draw this, but what I failed to consider is that I'm just going to lose this pawn. Like there's no line in which I'm ever going to save h6. Yeah, and I mean king g6 isn't too hard to find. Like this pawn's queening if you don't play king g6. But yeah, now the pawn's just going to be lost. Now I'm losing again. But yeah, and I called out that this was a terrible move. I didn't even see this. That's cuter and just wins like immediately. Because I'm just gonna lose. he's getting a queen. There's no line where he doesn't queen. Like if I take the rook, he queens. And if I defend my rook, he takes the rook. Okay, I guess this line he doesn't queen immediately, but obviously I'm lost. I go here, he queens. So, yeah. So rook d3 was even more terrible than I realized. And I was lucky that it only cost me a tempo and not like immediately cost me the game. So where did things go wrong for him? I'll give myself a little credit. Like I made it difficult for him. It looks like I played pretty accurately. Except, yeah, here was also a big mistake, though. And it was another one that I recognized after I did it. I'm like, why am I not taking this pawn? Because, I mean, that defends this. And, like, if he pushes this pawn, then it's a rook pawn, and I have this pawn still. Like, this is drawing. I didn't see rook a4, but... Yeah. But that's not so easy to find, I guess. Okay. And yeah, what happened? It wanted me to go rook c5, not rook c4. Okay, both are losing. I didn't know which way to go with my king. That was a big question. And then we're coming up on a moment where I missed a draw earlier than... Yeah, so here... Apparently king d2 and king d3 draw. I played rook d4. I was scared of f5 happening. Okay, it says he should have played f5 here. My plan was to take. And it says this is winning because it has a table base. This is the only win. This is tough stuff. King g6, the only winning move. So I guess the thing is that we really need the king to get in front of this pawn, which is what happened in the game. The king's not so good here because I'm taking with check, which also happened in the game, I think. Okay, now he's winning again. And we went back. And it's actually already a draw after king e6. I guess it just all comes down to the king needs to be over here in front of these pawns. So, I mean, what's the determination I can make that, like, my king needs to be in front of this pawn and not this pawn? I mean, I guess my rook is already here. Yeah, because, I mean, at some point he could just sacrifice a pawn and try to get this rolling. So I'm going to need something in front of this pawn, I guess, is the idea. Yeah, and now after I moved my king the correct way on just pure random chance, it's actually a draw. I took with check, took here, yep, and it was just always a draw. But king e2 is the only draw. But I sort of just, like, there wasn't calculation, it's just like, the king needs to get in front of the pawn. King e2 is the only move that does it. Like, if we let him do this, then he's gonna win. Okay. Now king e1 and king f1 draw, but king f1's far more logical. And then I think this just became a Philidor, which again, I didn't really remember the method to, but I believe the method is you move your king here and here. Like, anytime they check, you just move to the other square. You keep your rook on the 6th rank, and then when they push the pawn and try to... Yeah, I think when they push the pawn, then you go back and start giving checks from behind. So I don't know if that's the Philidor. You guys can, like, tell me in the comments or something that if that's the Philidor or if I'm totally off base. But it did draw here, so I guess that's important. And it wasn't even like there were only moves, but he eventually gave a repetition, perhaps unintentionally. But my idea was, like, here, you know, he wants to try to get the king in, but the king's only defending the pawn. And, yeah, I'm just going to check him to death. And if the king gets too far away from the pawn, I'll just play rook g8, pressure on the pawn, and he's not going to be able to do anything to move forward. So, okay, well, that was an exciting game. This was a longer video because I really dug into the analysis here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.